Today, I want to make the case for Benjen Stark being Val's father. This is a theory I have been considering for a long time, and I believe there is a lot of evidence for it. I also want to state I have read A Song of Ice and Fire on many separate occasions the whole way through, and I have given this theory a lot of time and thought. I also want to state I don't know who Val's mother is, but I will be making some suggestions. And feel free to make suggestions yourself in the comments below. So, let's get down to it. Be warned, spoilers ahead. My first thought as to why Benjen might be Val's father is that we don't know why Benjen joined the Night's Watch. George R.R. Martin has elected to keep that fact secret from his readers. And I do wonder, could Benjen have gotten a girl pregnant as a teenager? It's not beyond possibility. We know Benjen was a fun-loving teenager from what Bran is told from Meera. And fun-loving teenagers tend to be very interested in the opposite sex. We also know that Benjen enjoyed getting drunk as a teenager because he tells Jon as much in Jon's first point of view chapter. So, we have a 14 or 15-year-old Benjen who is fun-loving and enjoys getting drunk, and is probably interested in girls. This seems like a recipe for teen pregnancy to me. This also means the timeline adds up, as Val is only a little younger than Jon. If Benjen was anything like the other Starks, he probably took an interest in all the common people that worked in the castle. And if Benjen had gotten a low-born girl pregnant, and then refused to marry her, would his honourable brother, Eddard, make him join the Night's Watch as a penance? This may seem a little harsh, but we know that Stark men feel a great responsibility for the women they get pregnant, or even take to bed. We know this from Robb Stark, when he marries Jane Poole. If this is the case, could Benjen have taken them with him and installed them beyond the wall so he could visit them on his rangings that often lasted months? Was he away playing happy families instead of doing his duty for the Night's Watch? Is this how Mance Rayder's army got to be so big in the first place? We know Benjen withheld truth of what the Night's Watch was from Jon to get him to join, so vows of celibacy wouldn't be a problem for him, I don't think. We also know that many of the Black Brothers go digging for buried treasure in Molestown at the local brothel, so vows of celibacy are not taken as seriously as it may appear. We also know that Benjen enjoyed the finer things in life: good wine, silver belt buckles, expensive fur, and expensively tailored clothes. Does it not follow that he would also enjoy fine women? Val is very beautiful, so it follows that her mother would be very beautiful as well, and she probably was if she was Benjen Stark's paramour. We know Mance Rayder had a passion for wildling women, because the half-hand tells Jon. We know Mance Rayder was a ranger at Castle Black in the Night's Watch when Benjen Stark joined. Could Benjen have studied under Mance Rayder and picked up his taste for wildling women as well as skills at ranging? I believe it is even more possible that Val's mother was a wildling woman. Val also has some very strong Stark characteristics. We know Val has grey-blue eyes, and Starks are known for having grey eyes. We also know that Val is very strong-willed. Jon thinks that if Stannis forces her to marry against her will, she will probably kill him in his sleep. That statement reminds me of Lyanna Stark and Arya Stark, who are both described as having the wolf blood. I think Val might have a touch of wolf blood herself, through her father Benjen. The wolf blood may mean that Val has the working gene through her father Benjen, as when Jon sees Val with Ghost, he thinks they look like they belong together, and that would make sense if Val is half Stark. If given a direwolf, she would bond with it, like all the Stark children do in the books. When Jon first meets Val, Mance Rayder describes her as a beauty, and he seems to put emphasis on the word. Maybe he is trying to draw Jon's attention to her, to see if he notices a family resemblance. I also believe Mance Rayder and Stannis Baratheon discussed more than the others when they had their talk after the battle for the war. Could they have been discussing Val's parentage? It seems likely that Mance told Stannis that Benjen Stark is Val's father, as Stannis now seems hell-bent on getting Val to Winterfell, because whoever marries Val will get Winterfell as Val's dowry. I believe there must always be a Stark in Winterfell to keep some ancient spell of protection in place through blood magic. This is linked to the Stark's bloodline. It is also after the meeting of Mance Rayder and Stannis Baratheon that people start referring to Val as the Wildling Princess. And why would they do this unless the king has ordered it? Val, the Wildling Princess, would be a great prize for any man she marries. She brings Winterfell as her dowry. She is extremely beautiful, tall and graceful, and she carries herself like a lady, unlike the other Wildling women. I believe this is another link to her true parentage being Benjen Stark. George R.R. Martin likes to play with names and changes of identity within his world, and I believe Val's title changing is very significant. I believe, however, the most important piece of evidence comes in Jon's first point of view chapter in A Game of Thrones, when Benjen tells Jon not to join the Night's Watch until he knows what he'll be giving up, and most importantly he says to Jon, until you have fathered some bastards of your own, to which Jon takes great offence. I believe Benjen's choice of words here are very deliberate on George R.R. Martin's part. Does Benjen feel so strongly on this subject because of his own experience? Does he have a secret daughter beyond the wall that he yearns to live with, but cannot because of a vow he made at a young age that he didn't fully understand? Is this why he makes this bitter statement to Jon? Is it based on his own experience, and is this sentence tainted with sadness from truth? Jon Snow then goes on to tell Benjen that bastards grow up quicker than true-born children, and Benjen agrees with him. Does he agree because of his own experience from seeing his illegitimate daughter grow up too fast? I think so, as when we first meet Val, she has a lover, and Mance Rayder hints that this man is not the first person Val has taken into her heart and her bed. I fully believe Benjen Stark is Val's father, and I think the evidence I have given here backs up that statement. The timelines line up, and despite Stark honor, Benjen seems to enjoy all the pleasures life has to offer. The question of Val's mother is still an open question. Was she a girl from Winterfell, or the Winter Town, or was she a Wildling spearwife, or a Molestown prostitute? I guess we will have to wait for Winds of Winter to find out. I hope we get more background about Val in the Winds of Winter. Lots of people believe Val is a Valyrian. I don't believe this, but we can all agree there is something about Val that doesn't add up. For now, however, I believe Benjen Stark is Val, the Wildling Princess's father. Today, I want to talk about a tinfoil theory of mine. I think Dala is Rhaegar Targaryen's daughter. Now hold on, guys. I think I have some evidence to back my theory up, so please keep watching. But feel free to keep on your tinfoil hats. We know very little about Dala, as she only appears in A Storm of Swords, apart from the fact that she is a wildling, the wife of Mance Rayder, the mother of his son Aemon Steelsong, and Val's sister. We do not even get a physical description of Dala, but as Mance Rayder's wife and Val's sister, we can assume she is beautiful. Mance seems to have a fondness for beautiful wildling women. Dala is also probably blonde like her sister Val. At least most of the fan art of Dala is. We also do not know the age gap between the sisters, but they seem to have a very strong bond, so we can assume they are relatively close in age. We do not know either Dal or Val's parentage. I have already made a video about the fact that I think Val's father is Benjen Stark. So if you want to watch that video, please click the link in the corner of the video. There will also be a link to the video in the description. Dal and Val could be half-sisters. We have no evidence either way. George R.R. Martin seems to enjoy using the sometimes more complicated nature of half-sibling relationships throughout A Song of Ice and Fire. Jon Snow and Robb Stark, Shiera, Seastar and Bloodraven. Why not add to this trope with Dala and Val being half-sisters? We know Maester Aemon and Rhaegar corresponded with each other via Raven message, and both were big believers in the Prince that was promised prophecy. And we know that Rhaegar went to visit Maester Aemon at the Wall early in 282 AC, before the beginning of Robert's Rebellion in late 282 AC. We know while at the Wall, Rhaegar talked a lot about how the dragon must have 3 heads, and how he must have a 3rd child, even though his poor wife, Elia Martell, had just been warned that if she had any more children, it would probably kill her. We know Maester Aemon and Rhaegar thought the prince that was promised would be the living symbol of the Song of Ice and Fire, and we can be quite certain that Rhaegar already had Lyanna Stark in mind for the mother of his 3rd child, because of her first man blood. Was Maester Aemon trying to dissuade Rhaegar from this course of action, knowing with the benefit of age how Rhaegar's actions would cause great offence and unrest throughout the kingdom? Could Maester Aemon perhaps have suggested a wildling woman with first man blood instead? While at the Wall, it is likely Rhaegar Targaryen ventured beyond it. We know that as a child Rhaegar was bookish, so perhaps he held a similar curiosity about the Wall and what lay beyond it to that of Tyrion Lannister. Or perhaps he felt a duty to see and understand the Night's Watch, similar to that of Queen Alysanne Targaryen. So, could there have been some alluring, beautiful wildling woman trying to seduce men with magical blood whenever they ventured beyond the Wall? It is a possibility, and one woman who fits that possibility is Shiera Seastar. Shiera Seastar was the last great bastard of King Aegon IV Targaryen, born to his last mistress, Serene of Lys. Shiera was a renowned beauty and seductress, with the Targaryen silver-gold hair. She was a long-term paramour of her half-brother Bloodraven, and she is said to have practiced magic alongside Bloodraven while he served as Hand of the King. Shiera's fate has never been mentioned, which is out of keeping with George R.R. Martin's methodical writing style. All we know is that she went missing some time after Bloodraven got himself hooked up to the weirwood net. Many people have speculated that she went looking for him beyond the Wall, but nobody knows for sure. Maybe she found him. They're both magical. It is not beyond the realms of possibility. Could Shiera Seastar and Bloodraven be trying to fulfill the prince that was promised prophecy from beyond the Wall? I know a lot of people will jump in here and say Rhaegar was not the sort of man to enjoy women casually. We have Ned Stark's word on that. For the first time in many years, he found himself remembering Rhaegar Targaryen. He wondered if Rhaegar had frequented brothels. Somehow he thought not. But that only refers to brothels and whores. A casual relationship with a willing, loving woman doesn't seem out of character for Rhaegar at all. What was Lyanna Stark if not willing and loving? One quote that really stands out to me, and I feel backs up my theory that Rhaegar Targaryen plus Shiera Seastar equal Dala, is from Stannis Baratheon. She talks of prophecy, a hero reborn in the sea, living dragons hatched from stone. A hero reborn in the sea? It could be interpreted as a hero born from the line of Shiera Seastar. Her name means Star of the Sea, and a bleeding star is meant to herald the arrival of the prince that was promised. There is a lot of blood when a woman gives birth. So we have a hero born from a bleeding sea star. Looks to me like Aemon Steelsong is the grandson of Shiera Seastar and Rhaegar Targaryen. I know this timeline only makes Dala 19 when she dies giving birth, but most of George R.R. Martin's characters in his books are very young. Lyanna Stark was only 16 when she died in childbed. There is the fact that if Shiera Seastar is living beyond the wall, by the time I am suggesting she met and seduced Rhaegar to conceive Dala, she would have been at least 98 years old. However, when she lived in King's Landing as Bloodhaven's paramour, there were many rumours circulated that she bathed in the blood of maidens to retain her youth and beauty. So maybe she has continued to practice magic, much in the same way Melisandre has done. And maybe the cold beyond the wall has helped. Maester Aemon even points out while in Braavos, the cold preserves the flesh, whereas heat destroys it, and living beyond the wall is definitely cold. Lots of people like to think that Quaithe could be Shiera Seastar, but I disagree, because Shiera was well known for having mismatched eyes, one dark blue and one bright green. Quaithe's eyes are the only bit of her face that Daenerys can actually see, through the mask Quaithe is wearing, so wouldn't she notice the mismatched eye colours? I also do not think Melisandre is Shiera Seastar, because we get Melisandre POV chapters, and there is no inclination of a secret Targaryen identity. Another point that backs up my theory is the name given to Dala's child, Aemon. On the surface, it is simply that Gilly wishes to honour the memory of Maester Aemon, but I feel the meaning of it goes deeper. George R.R. Martin loves to invest his characters' names with significance, and I doubt this little baby is an exception to the rule. The name Aemon is the Gaelic version of Edmund, meaning prosperity and protection, and these are characteristics you might expect to see in the prince that was promised. In the world of Ice and Fire, as in the real world, names are normally passed down family generations, and wouldn't it be a nice thought that Rhaegar Targaryen's grandchild had been named after his great-great-uncle Maester Aemon Targaryen? Dala's name also holds significance. The name Dala is Norse, and in Norse mythology, Dala is the mother of Cormac the Destroyer. The name Cormac in fact means destroying sun. What will Aemon Steelsong destroy? I cannot wait to find out. I know this theory is pretty off the wall, but I feel it holds a lot of merit, and everyone agrees that Val is super important. So why would her older sister and nephew not be important? Of course, I'm probably wrong about all of this.
But what do you think?
Today we are having a look back at one of my first and favourite A Song of Ice and Fire theories, that Dala is Rhaegar's daughter, because I recently came across some new evidence that I feel backs up my theory. I already have a video covering this subject in great detail, so go and check it out if you haven't already. The link will be on your screen right now and also in the video description. I recently started my 6th read-through of A Song of Ice and Fire and was truly amazed by what I found in the prologue of A Clash of Kings. Princess Shireen talks about a serving woman called Dala, who she overhears gossiping at a well and relates the conversation to Maester Cresson. And just like that, alarm bells started going off in my head. The prologue of A Clash of Kings is set on Dragonstone, and isn't Dragonstone covered in dragon seeds? Coincidence? I think not. We do not get a description of this serving woman Dala, but we know the people of Dragonstone have a lot of Targaryen DNA from reading Fire and Blood and The World of Ice and Fire. We also know George R.R. Martin sets a lot of store by what he names each individual character, and he also loves to bury important details in mundane descriptions, like what Patchface looks like in grotesque detail, so I do not think this serving woman's name is just a coincidence. Mance Rayder and his wife Dala do not appear until A Storm of Swords, but the names are identical, and I do not think this fact should be overlooked, given George R.R. Martin's history with names. And then there is the comet to consider, which is what this prologue is all about. George R.R. Martin isn't brilliant at keeping his timelines completely straight, but to my reckoning, there is about 9 months' time gone by from the beginning of A Clash of Kings until the end of A Storm of Swords. So, was Aemon Steelsong conceived the night the comet appeared in the sky? It is not an impossible thought, is it? George R.R. Martin loves to bury information in tons of detail. This is my 6th read-through of A Song of Ice and Fire, and I only just spotted these 2 new pieces of information, which I feel back up my argument that Dala truly is Rhaegar Targaryen's daughter, and I felt an overwhelming need to share my new evidence. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I love A Song of Ice and Fire because every time I reread it, I come across something new. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on my theory that Dala is Rhaegar Targaryen's daughter. Today, I want to talk about the missing swords from Winterfell's crypts. Everybody agrees it is an important plot device, but people cannot agree why. It is obviously very important because it is brought up many times throughout the story. It is even brought up in Ned's first POV chapter.
By ancient custom, an iron longsword had been laid across the lap of each who had been the Lord of Winterfell, to keep the vengeful spirits in their crypts. The oldest had long ago rusted away to nothing, leaving only a few red stains where the metal had rested on stone. Ned wondered if that meant those ghosts were free to roam the castle now. He hoped not. The first lords of Winterfell had been men hard as the land they ruled. In the centuries before the Dragon Lords came over the sea, they had sworn allegiance to no man, styling themselves the kings in the north.
We know George R.R. Martin has drawn a lot of influence from Irish mythology when creating his world, and we know the White Walkers are based on the Sidhe of Irish legend. And I am an Irish girl with 2 very superstitious parents, and iron plays a large part in that superstition. In Irish mythology, iron is put above doorways to keep fairies out of your home, where they create mischief. My own father, no matter where we lived, always hung a horseshoe above the door to keep the fairies out, and I have one in my own home right now. Fairies, or the Fae in Irish mythology, are not nice creatures. They cause harm within your home, playing pranks, causing mistrust, stealing babies, and they can even set your house on fire. The last case in Ireland where someone was accused and then killed for being a fairy changeling was in 1895, so people still take this stuff very seriously. I believe George R.R. Martin is using a similar premise, where iron swords are keeping something out, but it is not the White Walkers as most people think. I believe it is the Children of the Forest. I subscribe to the theory that the Children of the Forest are seeking revenge for what men have done to their world, and that the caves Bran now finds himself in beyond the wall actually link up to the crypts below Winterfell. If you want to know more about this theory, you should check out Quinn's Ideas. He has a really great video on the subject, and I will link it in the description below. There is also the small fact that the Children of the Forest never fought using steel weapons. Is this because they do not have the technology to make steel? Or is it because steel holds some power over them because it is man-made, and they only use naturally sourced materials such as wood and obsidian? There is also the lack of reasoning behind why Bran, Hodor, and Meera take the swords from the crypts. Bran is a cripple with no use for a sword. Meera already has a frog spear and net she can use, and she is rather small. Surely a sword would be too heavy for her. The weight problem being the reason why Arya has needle instead of a great sword. Hodor, you can maybe understand taking a sword, but it is pointed out more than once that Hodor is a pacifist and scared of physical violence. There is also the fact that Bran does not mention the swords until a storm of swords. Why would he not mention them when they were in the crypts?
The stable boy had forgotten about his sword, but he remembered. "Hoda!" he burped. He went for his blade. They had 3 tomb swords taken from the crypts of Winterfell, where Bran and his brother Rickon had hidden from Theon Greyjoy's Arryn men. Bran claimed his uncle's Brandon's sword Meera, the one she found upon the knees of his grandfather, Lord Rhaegar. Hodor's blade was much older, a huge heavy piece of iron, dull from centuries of neglect and well spotted with rust. There was a rotted tree near the tumbled stones that he had hacked half to pieces. He could swing it for hours at a time.
Would not this piece of the story fit in better when they're in the crypts, unless they were influenced to take the swords from an outside force, perhaps Bloodraven? Or did Jojen have a green dream sent by the children of the forest and convince his friends to take the swords? The swords are also very heavy, so why, if they were unnecessary, would you go to the trouble of taking them on such a long journey, from Winterfell to north of the Wall, when instead you could carry warmer clothes or more food? Why not simply leave the swords behind? The number of swords they choose to take is also a little odd. Why did Osha not take a sword? They chose only to take 3 swords. There is a lot of magical significance when it comes to the number 3 in Irish mythology. The number 3 signifies the Triskel, a figure composed of 3 spirals or 3 women, depending on who you ask. It signifies the 3 layers of the human soul and the 3 primary elements, earth, fire, and water. The primary elements are represented in A Song of Ice and Fire by 3 magical races. The children of the forest represent earth, the Targaryens represent fire, and the White Walkers represent water, and I don't think this is merely a coincidence. 1 sword for each race. That makes sense to me. My theory is the children of the forest need the swords to complete a magical ritual. Irish folktales are full of magic objects, such as magical shoes for swifter walking, magic cloaks for invisibility, a magic key to open any door. Will stark steel and stark blood help open a door within the caverns, perhaps like the Black Gate? Will the children of the forest use Bran and the swords to complete a ritual, and then they will be able to enter Winterfell again, rising up out of the crypts to slay everybody in their bed? I would not put it past those scary little 3-fingered creatures. While researching to create this video, I came across a very interesting sword from Irish mythology that really struck a note. Colum Salacis, the sword of Nuala, the king of the gods in Irish mythology. In legend, the sword glowed with the light of the sun, and nobody could stand before it in battle, having the power to cut an enemy in half. Doesn't that sound a lot like Lightbringer? The sword of Azor Ahai? Perhaps the oldest of the Stark swords brought north will become the new Lightbringer, after the children of the forest do their magic on it. They may use this super weapon to bargain with the humans, once the White Walker threat becomes extremely grave, or they may think that if they hold the ultimate weapon, that the humans will have no chance of success. Who knows? I just hope Bran doesn't have to plunge the sword through Mira's heart or anything else. Bran has gone through enough without having to murder his childhood crush. There is a lot to think about regarding these swords, and I think Theon Greyjoy summed it up best.
Theon did not recall which king it was, but the long sword he should have held was gone. Streaks of rust remained to show where it had been. The sight disquieted him.
I have a very strong suspicion that these swords are going to come into play in the Winds of Winter in a very big way.
But what do you think?
Be sure to let me know in the comments below. And as always, this is just my opinion. Please remember to help out and like this video if you enjoyed it. You can also follow me on Instagram at Lady Jessica Riddell and on Twitter at Jessams. I post on Twitter regularly about my videos. If you want to see more book reviews, character comparisons and fan theories, please subscribe to Jessie Bear Book Club. I try to post a new video at least once a week. See you next time on Jessie Bear Book Club. Bye!